Okay, great. We are online. I want to welcome all the audience for today's member interview with David Brothagen. He is COO of the company Basenode. Has been just started. I think this year in spring, in summer. They are focusing on accounting. If you guys have any questions during the member interview, feel free to ask them in the YouTube chat. I will forward them to David so that we can answer them afterwards, after we have presented and discussed the main components of Basenode. Welcome, David. I would kindly ask you to introduce yourself shortly.
Hello, everyone. My name is David. I'm the COO of Basenode, and I'm already like 4 years in the blockchain space. Worked for several blockchain companies, and now with Basenode, we try to revolutionize the freelancer market with the magic of cryptocurrencies.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Then already the next question, David. What is Basenode and what has Basenode achieved so far?
Yeah, so basically Basenode is a transaction aggregator. So we are aggregating everything related to your public keys currently. So for example, if you make a transaction on, let's say, Ethereum or Bitcoin, we aggregate those transactions and show them to you in a really user-friendly way. Additionally, we also have features that ease the, for example, the reporting. So you can create transaction reports over Basenode. We will introduce several other reports in the future, like profit and loss, balance report. And furthermore, we also have like invoicing features, which allow freelancers to create crypto-to-crypto invoices currently. And we also expect that feature to be expanded in the future as well.
Sounds very interesting, because I myself, I mean, I always have also have the issue of owning several wallet addresses, right? And it can become at some point a bit chaotic. And I think I've also had a quick look on your beta, and I saw that it was very nicely displaying all my different wallets that I have listed. Maybe we can also take a look at that later. But for now, I would still like to know how is Basenode going to revolutionize the freelancer market? Because I've also heard that especially freelancing is something that you guys take a very close look at. And what sets you apart from most of your competitors?
Yeah, so basically what freelancers are currently struggling from is the high transaction delays. For example, for remittances to, let's say, from Germany to China, it takes usually 7 days for your transaction to be received on the other side. And besides that, there are also really high transaction fees. So, for example, 10-20% in some foreign countries is really high. And if you compare that with cryptocurrency payments, which allow you to send transactions for the few cents and they are instant on the other counterparty's wallet, then it's really clear that freelancers could really benefit from that in the future. And that's what Basenode will revolutionize in that space. And regarding the components or our unique selling points, we have 3 big components that set us apart from our competitors. The first one is our invoicing feature that I've already mentioned. Currently, it's only enrolled as a crypto-to-crypto invoicing feature, so freelancers can create crypto invoices to their employer. But in the future, we will also introduce a so-called fiat-to-crypto invoicing. So, for example, you can think about your employer sending the money in fiat to a bank, for example, but the freelancer receiving the money in crypto. The second component is our decentralized finance integration. So currently, most people have issues tracking all what they've done so far in the decentralized finance space. I'm also included. And then it's also interesting to, important to keep track of all those transactions. And since Basenode's aggregating everything, we will also aggregate those transactions. Yes.
I see. So there's, as I see it, so you have three really like unique propositions. First, remittances, right? I mean, I think this is very interesting because it's a bit similar to like El Salvador, where they have adopted also cryptocurrencies, right? Because they have so high remittances fees. For example, if they use Western Union or other the touch kind of payment providers, they have sometimes fees up to, I think, 20-30%, which is like a lot, right? So I totally see like the use case here of crypto, especially like for freelancing, which is probably taking place on like a global scale. And yeah, I also very much like that you guys take a focus on the DeFi integration, because especially I think for many freelancers, I don't know, maybe also in Asia or in underbanked countries, this might be like a very nice feature to have, especially like if it's like combined with basically like I can earn money here and at the same time I have like some kind of banking features, right?
Yeah. And the third feature we will focus on in the future is also like the tracking of second layer solutions like the Bitcoin Lightning Network, Polygon, Arbitrum, which is currently really hard because they have like a really high transaction speed. And if you're trying to like, for example, index the blockchain in some way, but you have like, I don't know, a blockchain that's like 1 petabyte or something like that, then it's not really easy. But we have some good solutions coming up for that in the future, and that's where our third feature that we are focusing on currently.
I see. So before the call, we have had already a little discussion, obviously, about Basenode, and I know that you guys have already a beta running. Would you maybe like to give us like a little presentation on how it looks already, and maybe show it us a bit around, like all the features?
Let me just share my screen. Oh, you have to activate me.
Yeah. Okay, now it should be working.
Yes, perfect. Can you see my screen?
It's working great.
Perfect. All right. So basically what you can see here is the main dashboard where you come after you've logged in with Google or with MetaMask. So maybe I can also demonstrate that shortly. You have here the option to connect with MetaMask, then here to just sign with your MetaMask and log in. Here you have a portfolio overview over your balances, total assets value table, and also a table which shows you the last transactions. Here you can filter all your transactions and have a good overview about them. You can add contacts and wallets that allows you to, for example, pre-label transactions. So for example, here you can see that I've labeled this ETH wallet and I've sent money from that ETH wallet, but also received money from that ETH wallet. In the opposite in that case, but yes. Furthermore, you can also deselect and unselect your wallet. So it's like all this aggregating stuff in the first place. And as I mentioned, we also have like the two features, like one is reporting. So for example, I can create easily a report here, for example, and then just like download it as a PDF or like as a CSV. So you can easily use that, for example, if you use like another accounting solution, like for like your normal finance stuff, I would just say, and you can export your transactions and everything with Basenode and also import that in your accounting solution. Yes, and our biggest feature is the invoicing feature. So here you can see you can just like add a wallet, a contact that you've already added. Then maybe say test. Then email. Yeah, another one. Okay, yeah, and then you can just like, for example, say, okay, I want to now receive like USDC on my ETH wallet that I've already added to the wallets for illustration purposes. I've worked 10 hours for like 10. And then I can also add a message to the customer and create a download. And after I've created the report, it gets download. I can download it and send this CSV over to the employer. And then, okay, now that's because I'm logged in with the same public key. But for example, if I would send this to another guy who was logged in with another browser, he could easily pay that invoice via this link in crypto using MetaMask. And yes, that's our main feature currently. And we expect here to crypto invoicing, decentralized finance tracking in the transactions, and also more reports in the document screen coming in the upcoming month.
Mm-hmm. I see. So you have so you have the beta already running. Looks already very promising, I have to say. You're already prepared basically for like multi-chain support. Is that correct? I think I've seen there a lot of different wallets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So currently we are supporting Polygon, Binance Smart Chain, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. But we will also introduce more and more chains in the future. We just try to proper integrate each chain before like integrating the next chain. So that's why this process isn't that fast. For example, like we don't add like one chain per week, for example, but yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've also heard that you guys have already been testing the features with several freelancers, right? And I think the feedback was quite positive, right?
Yeah, so currently we are in our closed beta. So what you've just seen was our beta version, and we just enrolled it like 2 weeks ago. And since then, collecting feedback from all our lead users. So we have a list of a lot of lead users that are currently testing our app, and we get feedback from them, implement that feedback with our own improvement proposals in the upcoming month. And then our main version, or like our first version, will start at the beginning of next year.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And now that we're already talking about the future, I think your team is very, very creative about how to basically progress the development of Basenode. And I've also heard that there's some further plans for the future. I've also heard you once mentioning, I think, Kleros. Would you maybe like elaborate a little bit on like where you would also like to see Basenode maybe like in a year or two, like what features you would like to see added? I don't know, maybe like some decks, even maybe some aggregator decks or some other features. Like if you could now basically describe how Basenode should be like in like 1 or 2 years, I would be very delighted.
Yeah, I mean, you can only like at a time currently I can only make like design ideas what I would have for Basenode in the future. So I can't tell like now, okay, Basenode will be like in 2 years this kind and this kind of like company, and we will have especially this feature and this feature. But what I would be really interested in would be like the more use of smart contracts. So currently we're just aggregating smart contracts, but what I personally would feel really excited about would be like making Basenode in some kind of a DAO. So for example, all this invoicing stuff with the freelancers and employers, you can bring this concept so much further so that you integrate more and more use cases. So for example, if you use a smart contract for that particular case, you could say something like, okay, a freelancer and an employer make an agreement with smart contract, and the employer, for example, sends his money before the freelancer already finished his work to the smart contract. The smart contract locks the funds of the employer and waits for the freelancer to finish his work. And if the employer is satisfied at the end with the work of the freelancer, you can just like say, okay, I'm fine with that, and the smart contract gives them the money. In another case, for example, like the freelancer did a really bad job or didn't meet like the requirements, for example, the employer could say, okay, I'm not really satisfied with your work. I will pay you like 70% or 60%. And if the freelancer isn't all right with that, then there could come something like a DAO in place, which like decides on a really objective basis, like how much money does the freelancer gets at the end, and how much money does the employer gets back in return. And something like this can easily be done with like a DAO, for example. So that's what I would like to see Basenode in the future, maybe.
Yeah, I think there's also like a lot of, I mean, you have now already basically, you guys are now providing already like a very great service, because I mean, I've also made experiences, right, with like working with freelancers, especially from abroad, and like making payments in general is always a bit tricky. And I totally see like the advantages of crypto. And as it seems like you guys have also a vision already for the future on what would be really like advantageous features to be added. Yeah, this sounds very good. One thing, because I know that you guys have been also working on that, and this is now also related basically to us, is basically ITSA. I mean, we develop market standards, and as far as I know, what's likely going to be also play a role in the development for the future is the ITIN, so the International Token Identification Number, our identifier. Yeah, do you have already some plans with that? Maybe like in this whole multi-chain space?
Yeah, so as I've mentioned earlier, we are currently expanding as well our reports, and I think ITSA could play a really significant role in that, because as you've just mentioned with the chain problem, so you can have like wrapped ether, for example, on Ethereum, you can have it on Binance Smart Chain, you can also have it like on Avalanche or Phantom, and sure, everything has different smart contract addresses, but what we are planning to introduce is like reports related with ITSA or powered by ITSA, so that we like give our freelancers and our customers the guarantee that the token they are wanting to receive is actually the token they will actually receive. So they say, for example, okay, I want to receive like now wrapped ether on let's say Polygon, but the employer didn't realize that he wanted to receive it on Polygon and sends it on Ethereum. Then the freelancer has an issue, for example, if he has like no ether on his wallet or something like that. It's just not nice. But with ITSA, we could like 100% correctly identify the address of the smart contract of the token and say, okay, it's a token, and it says it's on the Binance Smart Chain, and the freelancer wanted to receive it on the Binance Smart Chain, and then it's 100% guaranteed that the freelancer also will receive it on the Binance Smart Chain. So that's one use case for ITSA. And the other one also in the reporting, as I've mentioned before. With the same problems set in mind, it's also beneficial to use ITSA in the reporting.
Yeah, I also totally see this kind of issue, because I mean, it also has happened already to me that I got into trouble because like I was trying to send some version of wrapped token to like some address or some other chain, and it totally got mixed up. So like even I have already suffered this fate. And so I really think that this might be very advantageous if like Basenode will integrate it into the reporting. And there's one more thing I think that might also be very interesting, obviously, to you guys, is like our international token classification framework, where we classify tokens according to the characteristics. And I mean, for now, might be still in the development, but for the future, we will also have a text dimension where we are currently releasing our text dimension where we follow OECD guidelines. So I think if you guys are really into like this reporting of like the different crypto assets, to distinguish between like, I know that the OECD is like a bit between like new asset types and conventional asset types. So more of like securities versus true cryptocurrencies. So I guess this might also play at some point a role in your reporting, but sounds very like good, like how you have basically planned already for the future. And I would just check if we have also some questions in the chat. Okay, as I see, not yet. Is there still anything you would like to talk to, David, that hasn't been mentioned yet about Basenode or for the future?
I think what you've just mentioned with all the chains and the and you bridged from that chain to that chain, and then yeah, I think that's a really like where Basenode can like give a really proper solution, because like imagine paying your taxes next year, but you don't have a clue what you've done on all those chains, and I think that's a really good or a really big problem, because like currently you have to manually like search for all those transactions, go from like, I don't know, like Binance Smart Chain Etherscan to this Etherscan, and then like search for all the transactions and write them down, and then try to make some accounting on that basis. Yeah, so I think that's where Basenode could like give a really good like solution in that case.
I have to agree, especially to that extent that I mean, first, obviously, you very much focus on these remittances with like freelancers, but second, you really have some kind of accounting platform. And what I'm seeing on a daily basis is really that like the DeFi ecosystem is like expanding in every direction. I mean, currently there's a lot of trending with like DeFi 2.0, which very much refers to like this huge interconnectivity, right, between all the different chains, right? I mean, there was always just like the Bitcoin maxis, then there came the Ethereum maxis, and now suddenly we see like there's also Avalanche, Solana, Phantom, Polygon, right? So all these new ecosystem basically coming up. And I very much see there also the need for better accounting solutions, because it gets very chaotic. And I've already used your beta shortly, and I could actually see like all the different transactions that I was doing, and it was very nicely displayed. And I could also add like several wallets, which I very much like. So I would just encourage you guys, like keep up the support for like this interoperability. So try to add as many chains that are basically supported as possible. And I think then you're very much prepared for the future of DeFi.
Yeah, true. And we also have to integrate all those smart contracts like Uniswap and Compound and all those smart contract infrastructures that's coming now in the upcoming month.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. If you have basically presented everything about the case of Basenode, there hasn't been any questions so far, then I would thank you very much for the interview, David. I think this was very promising, especially in regard to what you have already developed and what's basically in the pipeline for the future. So I'm really excited to basically follow up on the project and basically see you guys grow. And thank you very much for being here today.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Perfect.
Bye.
Bye.